Hello friends. During Vlogmas, I got a coffee advent calendar and it had all these different flavored coffees and I kind of got addicted to flavored K-cups. Shortly after that, I ended up finding a coffee shop near me that sells like flavored K-cups. I believe I brought you in a vlog before. They recently even got some new flavors in and I went and did a restock. While I was looking at the plethora of coffee flavors that I had just brought into my house, I had an idea. I had an idea for a vlog of what if I let my coffee flavor of the day choose my book. So for the next few days, for the next week or so, we'll see how long we go, I am going to let my flavored coffee choose my read. And we'll just see how I can take the flavors and how I can stretch them to make a book work. Who knows how I'm going to take this? I mean, I know how I'm going to take it for today's, but like every day will be different. I'm about to jump on sprints, so I definitely need a cup of coffee. I have 8 hours of sprints, 2 hours of bones today, so like I need the coffee, so I need to go make it. I've decided to make the blueberry scone flavor that is brand new. I haven't tried this one yet. I'm very excited to try this one because I do love blueberry flavored things of all forms. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this blueberry scone flavor a try. Now, I was looking at my shelves. I was going, how and what can I use for blueberry scone? And I saw bookshops in bone dust. Yes, I did. This is on my February TBR. I did not know it would work for this vlog when I put it on the TBR. It was like kismet. The world, the universe saw fit that I would put a book on my TBR where the main character is holding, what is that main character holding? It's a scone, and honestly, it could be a blueberry scone. It could also be chocolate chips. It is unclear, honestly. It's unclear from the cover. It's either blueberries or chocolate chips. For my life, we are going to say this is blueberries, and I'm going to read Bookshops in Bone Dust. How perfect was this? So let's go make my coffee. Let's get all set up for sprints. And honestly, I may be able to read most of this today because I mean, 8 hours of sprints, this book is not that long. I mean, I'll probably have distractions, so we'll see. I'll at least get to the 50% point where I can like chat with you. Surely. I'll also let you know next time I chat with you how the blueberry scone tastes because, you know, some of these flavored coffees are good and then some of them are just like not as good. So I will let you know about that as well as we go through this too because, you know, that's just fun. This book is reading so quickly. We are not even halfway through Thursday sprints. We sprint for 8 hours every Thursday, and we are only 3.5 hours in. And I'm already 53% through Bookshops in Bone Dust, so I had to come talk to you because I think I'm going to blank and finish this entire book. So in this book, we do see Viv, and we follow Viv, who we do meet in Legends and Lattes. This is a prequel, so it takes place before the happenings of that book. Viv has been injured as a mercenary and has been dropped off in the city by her companions to heal, to rest, recoup, get better. And she is basically just in this small town healing. And she's puttering around the small town trying to find stuff to do. And she meets Fern, who is the bookshop seller, and we love Fern. Fern has a little creature called a griffet, which is like a dog-owl hybrid or a dog-bird hybrid. Like, it's great. It's fabulous. He's called Pot Roast. Is there anything better? I think not. Anyway, the bookshop is kind of struggling and Fern is struggling to keep it afloat. So Viv takes this time while being in the town to help revive the bookshop. Very similar to what we see in Legends and Lattes when Viv starts her own latte, cafe, bakery business in the town that she decides to retire in. We also meet Marley, and Marley is the baker of this town, and Viv and Marley have a little bit of a relationship going on, and I think it's really interesting seeing Marley. Marley is an ex-mercenary who has retired and started a bakery, very similar to what Viv decides to do later in life when she retires. So you can really see how the experiences that Viv had in this book kind of influence what Viv decides to do later in life in the happenings of Legends and Lattes, which I think is really cool to read and see. I really love the characters, the small town vibes, the cozy vibes. They're all here, but we also have a little bit of something going on, something sinister. There's a necromancer. There's a necromancer in a neighboring town or a neighboring place, and they have sent a scout into the land, or what they assume is a scout at the time. And Viv and Galena, who we also see in this, Galena and Viv meet in this book, but we see Galena in Legends of Lattes as well. So we're seeing like those Easter eggs of characters we know. They are having to defeat this necromancer while they're trying to arrest and recruit and do all their cozy things. So there is something a little bit more underlying sinister in this book that is in Legends and Lattes, because there is a part of that, but not as much. I feel like this has a little bit higher stakes. We also have a character in here called Satchel, and I won't go too in depth on who Satchel is or what Satchel is, but I love the concept of Satchel. If you've read this, the concept of this creature is very fun to have this addition to the book. And Satchel is basically a servant in this book to another one of our characters. Again, it happens kind of late, so I don't want to go too into it. But we're starting to have really good discussions about freedom and what it would look like for Satchel to have freedom, and how Satchel would like to have freedom, and what that freedom would look like for Satchel. I'm really enjoying that as well. I honestly just got to that part, but I like seeing that commentary in this book as well. So amongst the cozy things, there's some really good little tidbits of knowledge that we're pulling out. I also love Fern, who is our bookstore seller, and seeing her getting Viv to fall in love with reading and getting the other characters in this book to fall in love with reading as a book lover. It just like makes my heart happy to see people falling in love with reading. What I didn't know when I picked this up this morning that I found out during sprints is that the next book in the series was just announced. It's called Bread, Knives, and Brigands, and it follows Fern, our bookseller. And what a perfect time to pick this up, knowing that was just announced. I think it comes out in November, so I will definitely be continuing. I love Legends and Lattes. I'm having a fun time with this. I'll be continuing for sure. I should be able to finish this on sprints today, which is perfect because if I read this all today, then tomorrow morning when I pick a new coffee, I can pick a new book. So that's perfect. So I'm going to go finish this. We still have 4.5 hours of sprints, so I should be able to finish this book, no problem. Last night on the very last sprint, I did finish Bookshops and Bone Dust. It was so great to be with a Travis Baldree book. Travis does such a fantastic job at character work. And when you are writing cozy fantasy, your characters need to be so on point because the plot is less. It is just less in a cozy. So the character work has to be top tier, and it is. I loved seeing Viv. Viv is a character that I loved in the first book. I loved seeing this kind of what led her to the first book, what got us to where we were. We see her sword, which makes a big plot point of Legends and Lattes, obviously. And we see her with these other great characters. We have Fern the bookseller. I cannot wait to see the next book with Fern, to be honest. I loved Fern. We have Pot Roast. We have Satchel. We have Zelia, which I didn't talk about in my last update, but like Zelia is a queen. I loved Zelia. We have Maylee. Like there are so many great characters in this book. So many. And the end. The epilogue just got me right in all the feels, honestly. Like, I was just having all the emotions in the epilogue, and it's an epilogue. I shouldn't be, but I was. It really got me so excited to read the next book. The next book takes place after Legends and Lattes, but the end of this book really set that up so well. And I'm really glad that I knew a next book was coming by the time I was reading the end of this book, because it really did show what was going to come and what kind of to expect in the next book. And I cannot wait till November to read that. Honestly, I literally cannot wait. I am so excited. I adore these characters. I adore this series. I'm going to give this a 4-star. I read this so fast. I read it in a day. It was a great cozy fantasy. And if you do love cozy fantasy and you haven't picked up this series, like, you need to. I feel like you have, because it's a really well-loved series. But if you haven't, you should. Like, you really should. Now, I have already made my coffee for today, and I decided to use my new mug that came yesterday from Tim Hortons. I've been waiting for a cute Tim Hortons mug to come out for Timmy's. I really wanted a cute Tim Hortons mug that I could always use in my Timmy's TBR videos, because I always have coffee when I'm filming, just to, like, keep me awake. So I've been waiting for a really cute one to come out, and finally they came out with this one with, like, the donut handle. It is such a heavy mug. Like, it is so hefty and solid. And it has, like, the donut hole in the donut, which we don't call them donut holes here in Canada. This is a Timbit, but for the rest of the world. And I adore this mug, and it came yesterday. So I thought, you know what? I know I'm not filming Timmy's today, but, like, I want to use my new mug. So I ended up going with a classic, the pumpkin spice. I do love a pumpkin spice. I am a typical girl who loves her pumpkin spice lattes. So I have made a pumpkin flavored coffee, and we are going to read a book inspired by pumpkin spice. And this one was an obvious one for me because I knew this was on my Kindle. And I'm going to be reading a book that I must have got for Stuff Your Kindle Day. I don't actually remember where this came from, but it must have been a Stuff Your Kindle Day. And it's called Once Upon a Pumpkin Spice Latte. This is by Sydney Strand. I have never read anything by this author, and I know very little about this book, except I quickly read the synopsis when I pulled this up, and it's a contemporary romance where we have a main character who is, I think, kind of like a Cinderella character, honestly, and her best friend is a prince, and somehow they have to come together. It almost sounds like a marriage of convenience situation. Again, I don't really know. I'm just going off the synopsis, so like when I come back, I'll tell you more. But I was getting Cinderella vibes. So if this is like a Cinderella retelling, I am so even more down for this book than I was before I picked it up. And I was really just picking it up because I knew it said pumpkin spice in it. So, pumpkin spice unite. First DNF of this project. I got to 30% of this book and I've decided to end it for a few reasons. I got to 33% and I am done. I got to the end of, I think, chapter 8, and yeah, we're done with this book, unfortunately. So for this book, it was cute. Like, the story was kind of cute. I didn't love that, like, our main male character, who is a prince, is a fictional prince. Obviously, he's fictional, but he's of a fictional principality as well. But everywhere else in the book is an actual country. So it just kind of made it feel weird. Like, it felt fantastical, but like also not, because he would then talk about Americans, or he would talk about, you know, the British royal family. And it just had a weird vibe to it for me. But I did really kind of like our two main characters. We have Hart, who is the prince, and he's coming to basically find a wife in this town where his family, like, summers. Because he needs a wife to make an heir to the throne. Like, this is all things he needs to do. Hilda is his pen pal in this town, and they met as children and have talked and kept in touch this entire time. She runs a maid service called Cinder Maids, and also is trying to make her father's pumpkin spice recipe. He has passed away, and she wants to fulfill his legacy. All of that was really, really cute. I liked the Cinderella vibes. I was jiving with the book. And then as we got closer and closer and closer to this like ball, there were so many comments on the appearances of the females, our main character included. But anytime we met a woman in this book, we had a comment on her appearance. Her stomach was too flat. She was eating too much. There were so many comments. It was aggressive and body shaming left, right, and center. And I just did not appreciate those comments. Let's just say that. Like, I was over it. And hence why I'm DNFing this book. This is not read it or delete it, but this will be being deleted from my Kindle. And I am ready to go into another book. And I need a win after reading this book and the anger that this book gave me. So I need a win. So I'm going to pick up a novella in a series that I really, really love because it works with my coffee this morning. And I'm actually very, very proud of myself of how I've made this coffee and book go together. So I am going to go upstairs and make a gingerbread maple coffee. Keep that in mind, okay? So the book I'm going to be reading is Forever Wild by K.A. Tucker. Now, this is the novella after the second book in the Simple Wild series, and it is a Christmas novella. Did not know that originally, but I've recently discovered this. On the back of this, it literally says, listen to this, "The holiday season is upon Calla and Jonah, and with the mistletoe and gingerbread." So there's the gingerbread part of our gingerbread maple. And if you don't know, K.A. Tucker is a Canadian author. Maple. I feel like I am hitting this on the head with picking a book that matches my coffee. Like, how perfect is that? So I am going to go make my gingerbread maple coffee, and I'm going to dive into this novella. It is not going to take long. But I do know I'm going to love this because truly I love this couple. I love this series. If I don't love this, it will be shocking. But it also means I'm probably going to read this very quickly and come back to you. I think it's only like a 4-hour audiobook, so like 2 hours. I will come back and we will pick another book, or maybe I'll wait till tomorrow and we'll pick a new coffee in the morning because, like, obviously I probably won't be ready for another cup of coffee in 2 hours. Did get to this later yesterday than I originally planned. The day kind of got away from me, but I did finish this up early this morning and I gave it 4 stars. It was nice to come back and see our characters that we met in the first 2 books, kind of get a bow on the top of Jonah and Calla's storyline before we go into the third book, the third full-length book that does not follow their romance. The first 2 do, that one does not. So it really did put like the finishing touches on their romance, including a wedding. We see all of our characters coming together to have Christmas together at Jonah and Calla's house in Alaska. We have her parents coming from Toronto. We have his parents coming from Norway. And we see them kind of all meeting each other and getting to know each other and having an impromptu wedding. If you love the characters, you will like this book. It's just a nice little snapshot of their life. And like I said, it did really put like a final bow on Jonah and Calla's storyline. The next book follows Marie, who is the veterinarian that we meet in the first and second books, and a character that we heard of but actually haven't met. He is breeding snow sled dogs, and we hear tell of him, but we don't actually meet him. So we'll meet him in the third book. I'm going to be reading that next month with Kelsey as a buddy read. So I'm looking forward to actually finally finishing out this series because I've been reading it for quite some time. Although realistically, I just read the second book at the end of last year, read this one now, reading that one next month. So there was really just quite a large gap between book 1 and book 2. And then I've really hastened getting through the rest of this series. But since it's a novella, I don't really have that much else to say about it. If you like the series, I think you'd like this. But it's time to make a coffee and pick our next read. I went upstairs and looked at my coffee cart and I found something called Brooklyn Beans Roastery Coney Island Caramel. And instantly I knew what book I wanted to pair with this coffee flavor. Literally instantly, because I just read the first book in this series over the weekend and I gave it 5 stars. And you would have seen that weekend vlog already. I kind of put a pause on this coffee vlog to do the weekend vlog with my patrons. So I have been dying to get into the sequel. It arrived like 2 days ago. And on the front of this sequel is the entire Brooklyn skyline, because I am pretty sure that is the Brooklyn Bridge. This is The Heir by Ava Ronnie. It is the second book in the Biotech Billionaires series. And in this one, we follow Henry, and I'm not sure who our love interest is, honestly. I read the first book last weekend. Again, as I said, 5 stars, absolutely loved it. It follows Henry's sister Sloane and his best friend Marcus as they fall in love. So now we are going to dive into Henry a bit more. And I will say, Henry is the character from the first book that I know the least about, because the other character in this 4-person friendship is Xander. And Xander is Sloane's best friend, and he is going to be book 3 when it comes out in May. And I cannot wait. But I feel like because the first book followed Sloane, and Sloane was like Xander's best friend, I really got to know Xander. Marcus, who is Sloane's romance and also Henry's best friend, yes, that would have meant that I met Henry, and obviously Henry was Sloane's brother, but they are not as close now as adults due to a lot of circumstances that we cover in the first book. So I didn't really get to see Henry as much. So I'm excited to kind of dive into Henry a little bit deeper, get to know Henry a little bit more. The part that I loved about the first book so much was this kind of familial friendships, because obviously we have Henry and Sloane, brother and sister, Marcus and Xander, who are brothers, and then best friends within that. So that friendship and that familial found family vibe, I really, really gravitated towards, and the characters were really great. This will be the first romance where one of our love interests is not a part of the foursome. It is someone external. Again, I don't know who it is. I'm sure I could find out from the back. Honestly, the name means nothing to me. It's Selena. I didn't meet a Selena in the first book, so I'm about to meet this love interest. I don't know who it is. I'm going into this with much higher expectations than I went into the first book for. The first book I picked up for my local book club, which we're actually going to in a couple of days. So I picked it up for that, and I knew nothing about the book. Well, now I gave that one 5 stars, so I'm going into this one with much higher expectations. Hopefully it lives up to it. We'll find out. But first, I'm going to go make my very Brooklyn Coney Island coffee and read my very New York book. Is this better than the first one? Honestly, it might be. I may like Sloane and Marcus as a couple better, and I do think you saw more of the friendship group in the first one than you're seeing in this one, because Selena is not part of the friendship group. She's coming in as fresh. So you're not getting those aspects as much as you do in the first one. They're not completely gone, but you're not getting them as much. However, I love their romance. I love their couple. I really like them. Also, in the first book, it was a debut novel. So there were some ways things were written that wouldn't be how I would have necessarily thought they should have been written, but I loved the story so much I didn't care. So there were a couple of debut author, things that you see. And I didn't take away from that because it was a debut book and I loved it and I didn't care and all that stuff. But those are gone. You can really see how much she progressed in her actual writing skills between the first book and the second one. And that is even better. And again, I gave the first book 5 stars. I loved it. So love both books. Finally, one of my only critiques of the first book, I said it in my vlog, was that I really disliked how the female narrator narrated the book, especially the smutty scenes, to the point that I just physically read them from the female narrator. We changed out the narrator. The male narrator is the same, liked him in the first, like him in the second, but there is a new female narrator for this book. So that is even working for me, that I'm enjoying the audiobook experience more with the second book. I'm having such a fun time. So in this book, again, I said we follow Henry and Selena. Selena I have now met. Obviously, I'm 50% of the way through this book. I'm on chapter 29. I'm just about to start 29. We have met Selena. She is being brought in as a PR person. She works at a PR firm, and she is being brought in to do PR for Henry. Sloane is actually the one who hires her. She actually works for the family trust, not the company. Sloane is in charge of the family trust. Henry is in charge of the company. So yes, she kind of works for Henry, but doesn't. She works for Sloane. However, there is discussions around the fact that, like, technically she works for them, and how they can be together, and how it is above board if they do want to be together. So there are discussions about that, obviously, because it is the optics of this book. Henry, we know in the first book, has some PR issues. The way the tabloids have kind of made him a player, and there was questions of whether he was even able to run this company. And could he be the heir to the company with this tainted reputation? And she has come in to basically help clean up his reputation, which Henry has already started to do that. Like, he really wasn't doing anything that crazy either, but, you know, they still need him to clean it up a little bit. And he's already started, but he needs somebody to help with the media side of things, because obviously tabloids write what they want to write. They don't necessarily need truth or any sort of factualness to what they're writing. So Selena comes in to help clean this up, and immediately they have some sexual chemistry. Like, immediately, you see it immediately. And I love them together. But there are some heavier topics going on. We have her from a past relationship kind of bleeding in with some inappropriate behavior from her ex. We also have who she was working for previously, doing PR for previously, and there has been some drama there that she has had to sign an NDA for, and it's kind of making her question, does she even want to work in PR or stay in New York? So there is some things that are a bit heavier in this book. There were some things that were heavier in the first book too, so that's not overly shocking around the relationship. It was one of the things I actually liked about the first book, was that most of the kind of drama was outside of the relationship. The conflict was outside of the relationship, and I prefer that in a romance. I don't really need like weird third act breakup situations. If it makes sense, sure. Like, if the third act breakup makes sense, I'm all here for it. But I do like when the conflict is kind of external, with things going on around our couples. And we had that in the first book. We have that again in this one. So I kind of like that style as well. I'm having a great time. I have read all of this in the matter of like 4 hours, and I plan to just keep reading. I don't know if I'll finish this today, but I'm going to get really close. And honestly, I might finish it today. I'm really enjoying this book, and I truly just like don't want to put it down. So I just finished The Heir by Ava Rani, and I'm debating what I'm going to say about this, because most of this book I absolutely loved. You saw that. And the end, I really loved the ending of this book and how it all came together. But there was about 50 to 60 pages that kind of annoyed me with these characters. They were both really oscillating back and forth on whether to trust each other. He was wondering whether he could trust Selena and just kind of kept going, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no in his head. And obviously we have perspectives from him, so we're in that internal dialogue. And then she was having kind of the same things, because she had had all this stuff. We talked about, you know, her ex-boyfriend and also the people she used to work for. And she kept saying, but he's different. He's different. But she was like trying to convince everybody and herself that he was different. And I don't know if she fully believed it all the time. She was, again, oscillating back and forth. Obviously, I really liked their romance, but the constant questioning and for how long it went on just kind of made me not love this book as much as I loved the first. Even though I do think this one was better written than the first book, I think I prefer Marcus and Sloane's book. So I think I'm going to give this, I'm debating a 4 or a 4.5. Honestly, it was so close to a 5 that I think I'm going to go with a 4.5. I'm going to go with a 4.5. I really like this series quite a bit. I'm very excited for the next book and to read Xander's book. I cannot wait to have that in my clutches and to finish off this trilogy. And after that, I'm going to just have to like patiently wait for anything else Ava Ronnie wants to write because I don't think there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else out. I should double check though, truly, because going into Despair, I knew literally nothing. So I should just double check that there's no other books, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure Despair was the debut, and I don't think there was anything between Despair and The Heir. But, you know, I might double check. But I think it'll just be those 3 books, and I'm just going to have to wait for an author that I have really just fallen in love with and really love how they write a romance book. This is going to be the end of this vlog, though. I had a really fun time doing this vlog project and letting my coffee flavors choose my reads for the week. I got on 2 books that were on Timmy's TBR, so that worked out really well. And then I ended up picking up 2 books that I never had any plans to pick up anytime soon. One of them being a release that like literally I didn't even know about the series when I started this vlog. I read Despair in the middle of reading this vlog. So, you know, I had no idea that coffee would lead me down this path, but it has. And we just won't talk about the pumpkin spice one. It's fine. Overall, we had some really great reads here. 2 4 stars and a 4.5 and a DNF. Again, we will forget that one happened. But I hope you had fun watching coffee choose my reads. If you've made it to the end of this vlog, leave me a coffee cup emoji down in the comments because obviously. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.